Acceptance and tolerance are two key principles that have shaped Vermonter identity throughout the state's history, and the role that the left-wing media has played in cultivating and shaping this identity is, well, unequivocal. The state's economy has relied heavily on the agricultural industry, in particular dairy farming. However, this industry has been dwindling over time, as the state has failed to keep up with corporate enterprise and factory farming. To cope with all these changes, many farmers have been reliant on Latin American migrant workers, who for decades have raised families and now proudly call the state home.
The labor situation in Vermont is such that the younger generation just doesn't seem to want to do the jobs that are available on the farms.
It's a tremendous amount of work. The hours are early in the morning and later in the evening, and that's hard to ask people to work that hard.
However, over the last 4 years, change in immigration policy during the Trump administration has had a massive effect on these people's lives. In this 3-part podcast, we'll unearth the media's role in the fight against deportation, and also look at the various injustices individuals have faced with their entire lives being uprooted. When Donald Trump was elected in 2016, fears, anxieties, confusion, and uncertainty plagued the immigrant community.
Illegal immigration, important. We're going to build the wall, okay? Believe me, we're going to build the wall.
Changes in policy under the Trump administration bolstered federal funding to agencies like ICE, who specialize in finding and deporting undocumented immigrants. This, of course, was met with panic amongst the Latin American immigrant community, who even as far north as Vermont were now greatly threatened by arrest and subsequent deportation. Since 2014, the state of Vermont DMV has allowed undocumented immigrants to have photo ID and driver's licenses, which ICE used to controversially track down and arrest individuals living in the state. This is where local media has played an essential role in helping immigrants feel both safe and part of the Vermonter identity.
The report says data from immigrant IDs, along with the IDs of legal residents and citizens, was known to be shared with ICE voluntarily from 2014 through 2017. That's when the governor and the attorney general announced they would no longer utilize facial recognition technology.
This infuriated both Vermonters and the state government alike, who claimed federal agencies were not granted access to this information.
In a statement to NBC5, Governor Phil Scott's office said, quote, "Federal agencies do not have access to the Vermont DMV photo database."
This information should not be shared with ICE or any other law enforcement agencies. The Vermont statute is clear. We have many Mexicans living in this state. They're Vermonters. We need to defend them. We need to support them. And we need to treat them as we would treat anybody else. And for me, that means defending everybody's constitutional rights.
That was Thomas J. Donovan, the state attorney, speaking on behalf of Governor Phil Scott's office. The fact that he refers to immigrants as Vermonters and highlights the fact that we must defend their constitutional rights is certainly reassuring to any immigrants who feel targeted by the federal government. Over the past 4 years, NBC Vermont has shed light on this issue several times, and this only fueled the fire for agencies like ICE and the Department of Motor Vehicles. This led to a great deal of frustration amongst both immigrants and supporters of immigration who felt that this targeting of their fellow Vermonters was incredibly unconstitutional. But ICE's targeting of these particular immigrants was certainly not over yet, only amplifying unrest in the state. In the next episode of Vermont Media versus Trump and Anti-Immigration, we'll look at a lawsuit filed by a group called Migrant Justice, protests that broke out in the streets of Burlington, and dive deeper into the chaos surrounding this time period in Vermont.